Braveheart Workshops, Inspiring Connection. Restore. Dream. Getaway experiences. Love, live, and laugh. With Braveheart Workshops. Live now with Jill Reynolds.
The Connection Show. Restore, renew, and reconnecting community. Sponsored by Braveheart Workshops. Live with Jill Reynolds. And joining me today is Linda Duggan. Welcome to the show, Linda.
Hi, Jill. How are you?
Oh, I'm wonderful. Can you let the audience know where you're from today?
Oh, I'm in Texas, honey. It's summer here.
Oh, wonderful. So Linda's joining us from Texas, and I'd love for everybody to know a little bit about her. Linda Duggan, up-and-coming author, podcast, and YouTube channel host, an inspirational speaker, and the CEO of Momma, Linda's Life Recipes, LLC. She was caught up in her own cancer hurricane after learning to rely on a still small voice during many such cancer and chronic illness storms. Cancer killed too many of her loved ones. Years earlier, a genius from NIH was recruited as Chair of Melanoma at MD Anderson Hospital in Texas. Linda applied to help this pioneer with his research. When Dr. Patrick Yu accepted the presidency of Moffitt, Florida in November of 2020, he told her, "You deserve to retire, Linda. Thank you for being my trusted partner for so many years. Together, we have helped many patients. Now go write your next book to further help people." Linda keeps her eyes fixed on Jesus. She can do nothing without him, but with him, this woman is a fierce follower of the King of Kings. And so that's Linda, and welcome, Linda. What an amazing woman you are of God.
Oh, thank you, darling. I don't think, like I said, I can't do anything without him, so I'll just keep holding on.
Well, what I'd love the audience to know is to take us on a journey of your life, Linda, if you wouldn't mind. So take us into the days growing up of your life and, maybe a little bit about, with you writing Linda's Life Recipes, take us on that journey of what it was like for you growing up. And then, like you had mentioned, the many people in your life that maybe got cancer and then your own journey. If you can take us back memory lane to you as a little girl.
I love to watch my mama cook. When I was 3 years old, I started cooking, and I'm a natural chef, not a trained professional, but everybody loves my food. So, that was one of the reasons why there's recipes in all my books, except for this anthology, which of course is the stories. Mm-hmm. And my first experience with cancer was a pretty awful one because it was my daughter, my only child, and I lost her. To cancer. It was terrible. Mm-hmm. And I went across the street and interviewed because I heard that, MD Anderson was she was at Texas Children's, was the #1 cancer facility in the whole world. So I ended up somehow talking my way into the office of the Vice President of Research. And I worked for him for quite a while, and that was beautiful. I even made a library for doctors to come and sit down and study so that when they wrote their grants, they already could see what a winning grant looked like in the area that they were applying for. So MD Anderson got really good at grants, and I had a little tiny bit to do with it. Then I lost my dad to melanoma, and that's when my heart came out for melanoma. And when I heard they were bringing this genius over from the National Institutes of Health, my boss eventually, he was a Howard Hughes Fellow. He had never had to apply for any grants, nothing. They just gave him money and said, do good research. So he comes to MD Anderson, and we had to We had to start from scratch. And I was his artist at times, his writer at times. I researched the literature for him. And I told him, this is where my heart is. My dad died of this, and it's not acceptable to lose my daughter. It's not acceptable to lose my dad. And then we lost my brother-in-law. And he had not smoked a cigarette for 13 years when he was diagnosed with lung cancer. And that wasn't okay. It wasn't okay to lose my brother-in-law. And I had gone to neurosurgery to work for the neurosurgeons when Sarah died. I went to melanoma to work for the melanoma doctors when my dad died of melanoma and Sarah died of a brain tumor. And then I thought, am I going to go into lung cancer now? You're right. You see what I'm saying? And I said, maybe not. Maybe I need to write a book because books are not out there as resources for these people. They don't know that they should see a dentist before they go to an oncologist, before they get their first chemotherapy. They don't know that most treatments will affect their mouths and that they need their mouths to eat. They don't know that sugar and complex carbohydrates are like cancer's favorite food.
They don't know that your lymphatic system needs to have lymphatic drainage before surgery.
Yes.
And after and during your chemo, the lymphatic system is imperative, and most people don't know that. Well, that's so you had the three major losses: your daughter, your father, and your brother-in-law.
And my mother-in-law.
And
she
your mother.
She had survived breast cancer, only to die of a terrible bout of stomach cancer.
Wow.
Yeah, but each of them, I got to tell you, my family is resilient. Each of them outlived the odds because they had a strong will to live. They had good personal habits that are necessary to survive. And yet cancer is a formidable foe. And the way I look at it is you find out all the possible personal habits, throw those in there with great medical care, and you keep exponentially increasing your odds of survival.
Even if you can add a few months to a few years to whatever it takes, as long as the person isn't not extremely suffering. When it gets to that extreme suffering, it's like at that point you go, do I keep trying to keep him here for my own reason, or is it me that's doing it? Well, how old was your daughter Sarah when she passed, Linda?
She didn't make it to 2.
She was only just a little
year
girl.
and a half. Yeah, little baby girl. And
wow.
But she was speaking in sentences because she got her IV pole, and I was following her, and she was walking down the hall like a drunken sailor saying, I go bye-bye, I go bye-bye, I go bye-bye, because she didn't like it in the hospital. And but
well, my little granddaughter, she has biliary something, I can't think of it's a really bad one of the liver, and she's been in and out, and her mother actually gave her part of her liver. And, just to see her in and out of the hospital constantly. I come from a long line. You and I haven't had a chance to talk. I come from a very long line of genetic cancer links. My 2 grandmothers both were dead in their 50s of breast and bone cancer. So both of them, I don't remember my father's mother at all. She died when I was like 6 months old. And then my mother's mother. And then my Uncle George died of I think it was lung cancer in his 50s or early 60s. And then we go into my father's side of the family, and my father's brother Hank died of cancer, and his wife Pat died of cancer, and then their 3 children, their 3 kids died of cancer, all by 50, 60s, very young.
Wow, that's young.
Yeah, and then my Aunt Fran ended up getting breast cancer, but it went into remission, so she lived until 90. And my father, who died just in September 30th of heart disease, he never had one day of cancer. It was really weird. The only thing my father ever had was he ended up having a heart attack while working out at the gym at 79, and he had a quadruple bypass, and then he was great, and he kept working out at the gym till he died at 94. So you had uncles and aunts and cousins on all sides, So really the only one, and of course you heard, and some of my friends heard, that my sister, on her 68th birthday, the day of her birthday, she wasn't feeling good for weeks on end, had been having excruciating back pain, and then started having stomach pain. So she thought she had an ulcer. She went to her primary doctor, who put her on ulcer medication, which to me sounds insane. If someone's got stomach pain, send them to a GI doctor and get a colonoscopy. But she just put her on ulcer meds. So she went home, kept not feeling good, not feeling good. So finally, on her birthday on June 18th, she went to ER and they did a CT and found pancreatic cancer. And she,
Ooh, that's a rough one.
yeah,
That's a rough
they
one.
did the PET scan and found that it had already gotten to the liver and the spine. That's why her spine hurt so bad. So she only lasted 12 weeks. And we were going to try to get her into MD, but with the COVID, it was really hard. So then we ended up. My niece really wanted her to be with her in Santa Cruz, so they took her to Santa Cruz from Colorado, and she went to Stanford just a short time. And then it just got bad, so bad. She just said, "I want to just be on palliative care," because it was so spread. So she went quick, 12 weeks. And a good friend of mine, he actually was one of the head surgeons, chief of surgery in Chicago. I think he was at Rush, or one of the major University of Chicago, and then he went out on to be a forensic specialist for criminal cases as a doctor investigating forensics. And I had called him, and we went to high school together. And when Gwen got sick, my sister got sick, he said, "So do you want me to tell you the good part of the story or the bad part?" And I said, "Give me the truth." And so I'd say Gwen was only a week into her cancer, and he goes, "I give her 12 weeks to live." And she lived just about 12 weeks. He said, because she didn't qualify for the Whipple surgery because of the severity of it, because once it spread to the lymph nodes and everything. He said, "At this point, I only have one Hail Mary." So he gave her one Hail Mary that she tried, but it didn't work. And he said, other than that, he goes, just make her as calm as you can. So when I tried to tell that to my other family members, they were all like, "No, we're not accepting. She only has 12 weeks. And I went, "Okay, it's just too hard to know that." But it's a tough one. So,
Yeah, it's a tough one.
so I'm 66 and my brother's 63, and we're the only ones left really in our family. I mean, we've got two cousins still left, but everyone else in our whole entire family on all sides. My mother passed away at 76 of peritoneal cancer, and hers was weird. Hers was she was having a hard time making a bowel movement, and so we took her in to try to do a colonoscopy, and they couldn't get through. They couldn't get through. So I insisted that they do a CAT scan. So they did, and an hour later the doctor called me, and my mother was supposed to go to Las Vegas that evening to see her friends because she had been living in Vegas before. And the doctor called me, and this is when we just had pagers and not cell phones, and she beeped me and she said, "Get your mother here and don't let her get on the plane. She's got an obstruction in her bowel." So we got her to the hospital, and the next day they opened her up. And you know what was weird, Linda, is when they did the CT scan, they only saw the obstruction in her bowel. That's all they saw. And so they operated for the obstruction. When they opened her up, her whole entire peritoneal cavity, the whole thing was loaded with cancerous tumors. But not one cancerous tumor showed up on that CT scan. Not one.
Wow.
So it was kind of an interesting thing that it was good in the fact that she couldn't make the bowel movements because they found it. And they gave her 6 months to live, and that woman lived for 2 years.
That's a good thing.
She lived for 2 years. But so I'm so sorry to hear about your daughter and your father and the other loved ones in your life. And so you're now at the most renowned hospital in the United States, MD, which I know has accolades for. And you're doing all this research. So take us a little more on that journey. You're there and you're working, and Dr. Patrick says to you, go ahead and retire. So what led up to that when he said that? You had been there all that time, and then what was leading up to that decision by him and you?
Well, I had already retired, and he wouldn't let me leave. I had even had a retirement party, and he has a band, and they played me Freebird. But he wrote a whole new chapter to the song. And then the next verse of the song was "Don't Retire, Linda." And so when I did retire, because I had been his office manager, I had been an assistant, I had been many, many different things to him. But we just were a team. He was such an amazing man, an humble man who doesn't really actually know how great he is. It's kind of hard to imagine, but it's true. And he just facilitated people being able to share information better than any physician I have ever met. He just facilitated that. And he had just told me, well, I gave him a year's notice. I had given him a year's notice before my cancer. And I had had a hysterectomy because I had a 11-pound tumor in my uterus that I didn't realize I had.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, and they gave I had the Da Vinci surgery, which is a robotic surgery to remove this 11-pound tumor from my uterus, and then of course they had to I had to have a hysterectomy.
What year was that, Linda?
That was the year before I retired.
So what year was that?
Gosh, maybe 2014, but don't quote me.
Okay.
And then maybe 2013, but right up in there. And so right after that, he said, well, you were supposed to get better. And I said, no, I'm going to retire. And he said, why? I said, life's too short. I said, I had the scare. They thought it was cancer. Come to find out after I had the surgery, it was not cancer. I was so happy about that. And I thought, my husband needs some of my time. I'm going to retire. And then, so I just
so when they did the hysterectomy, it wasn't cancer?
Not cancer.
Oh, so you didn't need the hysterectomy?
I needed the hysterectomy because
of the
tumor had adhered to my uterus, and I would have been in a lot of pain. And even some doctors said they wouldn't do the surgery. They brought in 2 physicians to do the surgery because it was very complicated to remove. They tried to remove it from my uterus, but it would not be removed. It was a part of me. The tumor had become a part of me. And so I had to have the hysterectomy. They just did that all at the same time, which I had given permission for them to do. And then when the pathology came back that I did not have cancer, that was a blessing. It's because my family had too much cancer.
Well, you know, it's funny you say that because I just got done saying to you, like, everyone in my family got cancer except for me and my brother and my cousins. And I'm like, as you started sharing that, I go, wait a minute, I had cancer. And it's like I completely forgot when I moved to Branson 2 years ago in 2018. I wanted to see all my doctors before I moved because I knew it would take me a while to get established here. So I went about 2 months early for my OBGYN exam. And so when she did the pap smear and she looked at the slide, she said, I don't like your endometrial lining. And sure enough, the pathology came back that I had endometrial cancer. And so I had a full hysterectomy as well. And she's so cute. I had her for years. And she said, I don't want to do your surgery because of all of your chronic inflammatory markers from your car accident. So she said, I'm going to give you the best oncology OBGYN there is. So I went to I went to my OBGYN's surgeon at Rush and did that, and I was only stage 1A, so I did not need chemo, and I did not. So sometimes I forget to report that I had endometrial cancer, but we caught it because, and that again, as we're speaking to people, it's so imperative to get your annual checkups, and sometimes more. I was always diligent, and I've always been for 38 years diligent to get all my exams on time, my colonoscopies on time. I have genetic celiac disease, so I'd always do my colonoscopies every 5 years. And when I did my one colonoscopy in 2010, they went in, and believe it or not, my gastrointestinal medicine doctor I went to high school with. Nothing like going to high school with the guy who's going to go inside your rear. And I was in a sleep-like state, and when I kind of came around, his name was Larry, and he said, "You're not going to like the results. There's a mass inside your colon, and we need to operate tomorrow. You're going to have surgery." And I'm like, what? So they went in, and they thought for sure I had colon cancer because celiac disease can lead to colon cancer very easily. And It was a mass about the size of, a good size big acorn. It was a good size, and it was
Mm.
hard, so we thought it was cancer. But they went in and took it out, and they had to resect my colon 12 inches down to my cecum.
Wow.
So they had to cut the colon area. And you know what it was? A lipoma growing inside of my colon
Oh,
wall.
wow.
A lipoma. But if it would
Just
have,
had one of those. I
but
just
it,
had one.
yeah,
Yeah.
but if it would have continued growing, it would have perforated my bowel anyway, so
Wow.
it
Yeah,
had to come
something.
out. But I mean, who would think a lipoma would grow inside your colon? And so it's so important for people to get those exams
Exactly.
and what you
And I
said.
had not missed a one. I had not missed a single exam. And yet I had an 11-pound tumor, which boggled my mind because I'd had all my exams.
So
I'm just,
this tumor grew in 1 year that size?
I don't know. I
Wow.
don't know. I probably had it. You see, one of the things that I had as a child, and I had an inverted uterus,
Mm-hmm.
and they said that my whole uterus was upside down. So I've always had pain. And pain is a symptom of these tumors.
Mm-hmm.
But because my uterus was upside down, like most people's uterus looks like this, and mine looks like this,
Wow.
just don't understand why,
Yeah.
I'm just backwards. And so I didn't associate that pain with anything other than I had an upside down uterus.
Hmm.
And who knows why some people have inverted uteruses? They never thought it was a big deal, but every time I'd ever get an ultrasound or any kind of a test, they'd always ask me if I knew that I had an upside down uterus, and I'm like, yes. I'm yeah, of course I know. I had because I had all my
But isn't it
exams.
isn't it amazing how quickly that tumor grew? That's amazing.
Yes,
That
I
is.
imagine it is, and it was just huge, and it retired me. That's the way I looked at it. Is this thing was a wake up call,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to spend time with my family, and I so when I negotiated my year, I just told them everything I do except artwork, you can get somebody else to do. I was a really good slide producer for him. I did all his. I researched the science. I draw this at the molecular level. I set specific colors that describe different molecular structures, and I loved doing it. So to me, going into work, my part-time job was just fun.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. So now take us on the next stage of your life. So now you retire and
Yes.
you begin writing. So take us on that journey of writing.
Well, actually, I didn't. We were at Disney World, and I get a phone call, and it's my OB-GYN's office, and we were eating a lunch I had packed when I get a call that I have a very suspicious mammogram,
Mm.
and they want me to come back. And I said, well, I'm not coming back. And the girl said, you have to come back. You have to be in tomorrow. And I said, no, I don't. And I said, I work at MD Anderson Cancer Center, so the only reason you would tell me that is you think I have cancer. And that poor girl almost fainted, And she put me on hold, please, And then she goes talk to my doctor, and she says, oh, Linda works at MD Anderson. And so she knows we think she has cancer. So, but I explained to the girl that 1 week was not going to make a difference if I had cancer. But as soon as I got there, I get a biopsy, and I did have cancer.
Mm.
Yeah. And it was after I had cancer and I survived it that I started to realize that my next chapter of my life was to tell people how to survive, how to have you. Not necessarily everybody's going to survive, because cancer kills people.
Mm-hmm.
How to have the best life you can have while you are a survivor, because you're a survivor the day you're told you got cancer.
Mm-hmm.
You're a survivor until the day you die.
Mm-hmm.
How to be the best survivor you could be, how to have your best odds of licking this thing, because everybody in my family who had cancer before me died.
Mm-hmm.
So me telling my family I had cancer meant at Christmas of all times, I have to tell them Christmas week, the week, that I have cancer. And, of course, people darn near fainted, because that meant I was going to die, right? it doesn't mean you're going to die just because you get cancer.
Well, and I'm so glad you say that because, you know, I've seen so many traditional doctors over the years because of my medical conditions, but I've also gone into lots of holistic medicine as well. And I found the most amazing doctor in Chicago, Dr. Schwanigarg. He's unbelievable. And he was actually I met him because he was my mother's doctor who was assigned to my mother in the hospital when she went in and got diagnosed with her peritoneal cancer. He was the doctor on the call, the internal medicine. And he had the best bedside manner of anyone I've ever met in my life. So I started having him as my primary doctor. And Linda, he was the kind of doctor you'd have an appointment, and most doctors see you for 15 minutes. He would talk to you for as long until you were done talking. So if it was like you needed questions for 45 minutes to an hour, he sat with you. The only negative about seeing him is you were never on time with appointments because he really gave patients the time that they needed to get their questions answered.
Right.
And he loved Dr. Andrew Weil out of Arizona, the holistic Dr. Andrew Weil, who's written so many books on holistic medicine. And so he decided he wanted to um, add on to his medical degree of an internal medicine doctor. And he flies back and forth to Arizona under Andrew Weil's teaching for holistic medicine with traditional Western medicine. So when when all of these things were hitting our family with my sister and stuff, and I called him about my sister Gwen, he said, "You know, Jill, there's a lady named Carla Miros out of Chicago. She's a breast cancer survivor, and she practices, and I can't think of the author's name, that wrote the book Radical Remission." And she said the book Radical Remission, you can get it on Amazon, spells you step by step ways to cure cancer and heal from it. And
Yes.
he said she is a survivor and she practices it. Get that book for your sister. The problem I had with my sister, by the time she got that diagnosis, no matter what you did radically, it was, well, I shouldn't just say that though, because this woman, Karen, said that there has been people who actually died of cancer, and moments later came back to life, and then they came back to life and followed the radical remission and went into full-blown remission. And a lot of the protocol, believe it or not, a lot of the protocol had to do with meditation with God, stress reduction, organic eating, getting rid of the sugar, and exercise. So a lot of it had the holistic approach, and many people who followed it, their whole body started to shift.
Yes. And that's exactly what I practice for myself because I cannot do the medicine myself.
Hmm.
But you know what? Having great family connections is good medicine.
Hmm.
Having a great connection with God Almighty is good medicine. Getting the rest you need is good medicine. Exercise is great medicine. There's so many things you can do for yourself, and getting rid of the sugar, getting rid of the carbs as much as you possibly can will immediately make you healthier.
Hmm.
And that's why in the back of my first book are recipes that are delicious.
Hmm.
And they're low in carb and they're low in sugar, and they're delicious. I can make a Brussels sprout taste good.
Well, and Linda, you and I'm just so glad we're doing the interview because we haven't talked hardly at all besides on Messenger. And I went to treatment 5 times for eating disorder because I was born with genetic celiac disease that did not get diagnosed until I was 50. And and so I did not know I had an eating disorder at 5 years old because I started chewing and spitting food out into a napkin when I would tell my mom and dad I had a tummy ache. And being born in the 50s on macaroni and cheese and bread and cereal, I always would say I had a tummy ache, and everyone would say, well, just eat your dinner, just eat your dinner. And so I chew my food and spit it out. So I was very, very malnourished. I mean, very malnourished. And then fast forwarded with the abuses that went on in our family and a date rape at 14, I was so anorexic and so like not thriving at all. and never knew why I did not want to eat. So it wasn't until years later that at 28 I got off of drugs and stuff, and then I ended up starting to binge eat. And it was the first time in my life at 28 that I discovered sugar and got into more of a binge eating. Up until that time, I mean, I barely ate. I mean, I can't even tell you. I went literally for about 5 years eating one bowl of cereal a day. I mean, I was not eating at all. Um, and so for me, when I found out I had the genetic celiac, and then right after my mother died of cancer, and I had ballooned up so large, I went into treatment for my first time and really learned about disordered eating. And the one thing that I can say to the audience, that if nothing at all, that I like to tell people and teach people, is you must eat 3 meals a day. You have to eat 3 meals a day, and try to do two, maybe three small snacks in between, because it's so imperative for your health to keep your cortisol, your glucose, and your insulin levels balanced. And when you do not eat throughout the day, continuously like that, so that you don't go past the rule of thumb in treatment, Linda, was if you have to do it on your fingers, count 4.5 hours. After 4.5 hours, it means to halt, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, halt, and eat. And if you do that consistently, and they'd always tell you to eat your first meal within 1 hour of rising, and then count 3 to 4 hours, and then the next, if that means it's snack, and then 3 to 4 hours your next. And you do that throughout the day, along with gobs of water, and instead of having spikes up and down like this, your body starts to know the level it's supposed to be at. And many people think there's a secret to recovery, and the secret to recovery is to remember to eat. I mean, it's like you got and saying that to a binge eater, they'd look at you like, you want me to eat 5 times a day and lose weight? And I go, yeah, it works. Like, you eat 5 meals a day, 5 times a day, portion sizes, and you will lose weight. You eat 1 meal a day and you will gain weight. You're going to keep gaining weight with 1 meal a day, and you're going to get more and more and more and more obese. And people don't understand that. And the reason is that our brain has a hormone called leptin. And when your leptin, that hormone, is shut off, when it's turned off, you become leptin resistant. And the result of leptin resistance is you don't have any hunger or fullness cues. You don't know when you're hungry, and you have no idea when you're full. Thus, it leads you into the eating disorder called restrictive avoidance disorder. You restrict and you avoid meals because you're not hungry. And if you've ever been around people, and you audience could be one of them, who says, "Oh, I don't eat breakfast because I'm not hungry," because your leptin is turned off. And until you start eating again, you're not going to know you're hungry. And/or you eat, and 10 minutes later you're snacking again. Well, you don't know you're full because your leptin's turned off. So when you turn it on, it took me at least a year to a year and a half when I ate this way to get it to turn on, because I was so resistant of this hormone. And I literally had no idea that I was hungry or full. I mean, I had no idea. There were times I'd sit at my desk at work, and I'd have to open up my wallet and look for a credit card receipt to look to see if I had had lunch that day. Because I couldn't remember if I ate. Like, my brain I couldn't remember. I'd sit and go, did I eat lunch today? Because I couldn't remember.
Yes.
That's how bad it was. And I used to drive in my car home, and it would take me 45 minutes to an hour. And I'd call my husband. I said, "I'm leaving work now, start dinner." Not, "Hi, honey, how are you?" It would be, "Start dinner." And I'd walk in the door, Linda, and the minute I got home, if my plate of food was not on the kitchen table, I was a ballistic, like, insane woman going, "Where's my dinner?" and I'd sit down and I'd eat it as fast as you can, and 10 minutes later I'd go get a bag of popcorn or something else because I was so like hungry because I hadn't eaten breakfast or lunch or anything throughout the day.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's
No,
amazing.
your body does not like that.
Mm-mm.
Your body is a temple. You need to treat your bodies well. You need to love your bodies. God made these and they're beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing what the body can do. It heals itself.
Yeah.
If you want to know if your body can heal itself, get a paper cut, and get a small cut and watch how over just a short period of time your body just stitches itself back together. There's so many things when the body is treated right
It does.
that'll just happen right for you.
Mm-hmm.
And probably for you with the illness that you had, you probably had inflammation in your tummy when you ate the wrong things as a child, that you were being shoveled.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times people are like, get some Kraft macaroni and cheese. And I'm not trying to mess with Kraft macaroni and cheese. I would much rather see a child have a cauliflower macaroni and cheese,
Mm-hmm.
because cauliflower is so good for you. And you know what? Most of my little people that have ever had my cauliflower macaroni and cheese,
They don't know the
they
difference.
don't know the difference at all.
Exactly. Or,
Exactly.
or cauliflower pizza crust. It's like amazing.
Exactly.
It's
It
so
is. It's
good.
delicious.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. And just and you being a recipe lady and caring, moms and dads, please hear. I mean, please, please, moms and dads, don't raise kids that tell you or don't say the word in front of your children that they're a picky eater. No child is a picky eater.
Mm-mm.
Children are not picky eaters. They eat what mom and dad feeds them. And so,
Exactly.
mom and dad, when you have children, please don't have children and you say they don't like broccoli or they don't eat this or they won't eat this. They'll eat anything you give them to eat if that's what you give them from the moment they get off the bottle. The
Yes.
second you take them off the bottle or the breast, you give them healthy, nutritious food, and they will eat it. I remember doing this, Linda, when my son was just got off of nursing, and I would give him every single bite of food I was eating, and then it'd become his birthday, and it would be time for cupcakes. And he took a one bite, and he goes, "Oh, I don't like this. It's just too sweet," because he had been eating his carrots and his broccoli and his spinach and his chicken and his salmon and his brown rice, and he was so used to eating that way that when it was time to have something sugary, he was like, "Ugh, this tastes horrible."
Exactly, because it's not good for you. It doesn't taste, your body rejects it, but it's like crack cocaine. It's addictive. It's crack cocaine.
Yeah, and
Sugar is addictive.
right,
It's bad for
and he
you.
didn't know because, he'd only eat it, once in a great while. It wasn't his normal meal. But yeah, so tell us a little bit more about then your writing. So you've got this book, Mama Linda's Life Recipes, and now you're writing other things, correct?
Yes, we've got an anthology that we're writing, and that is so exciting because you're helping us to organize a conference in Branson about that.
Hmm.
Um, each one of us, I think there's now 15 authors. I
14,
think
I
a
think
new,
there's 14. One had to drop out, but we got
oh,
like 14 of us that are authors and speakers, and some are speakers, and a beautiful lady named Elizabeth Clamon, who's a CEO of a company called Relentless Heart Ministries. She has done collaborative books where she reaches out to specific people to write their story in this anthology, like Linda was saying. And so both Linda and I are in the book, and it's called Fiercely Faithful. Fiercely Faithful, being fierce and faithful in our relationship with God, who's helped us to overcome these trials and tribulations and traumas and pains and hurts and habits in our lives. And
yes.
through the grace of God, we have overcome. And so we want to go out and share these stories of encouragement and hope. And so we have created the book comes out in December on Amazon, and I guess the ebook is only going to be $1 at release. And we're going to do a conference in Branson, Missouri, February 5th through the 7th. And to some personal things in Linda's life, unfortunately, she can't make the conference, but she's going to be praying for us from home, from Texas, and a majority of us will be there. And so everyone is invited to attend, and they can connect with us on Braveheart Workshop's website. And before we go, though, I'd like for the guests in the audience to know about how to reach. My mouse is going crazy. Sorry, you guys. I can't get my mouse to go right. Just a minute. Technical difficulties. Mouse, where are you? It is not going to where I want it to go. Sorry about this, audience. I've got two screens. That does never happen to me. So, yeah, it's just been so wonderful getting to know you more personally. And audience, please keep in touch with Linda, and she's going to be around and just encourage us all during the conference time. And we got to get some way, so if she can, obviously, when you get the book, we'll figure out ways that maybe she can autograph some of these for you guys as well. So, Linda, it's been such a joy. And one of the things too is I started doing Zoom connection groups when the pandemic hit, so that people wouldn't feel so alone. And so we do those on Wednesday evenings. And many times the people on my podcast will jump on when they're free. So Linda, if on a Wednesday night you're ever able to join on the podcast, on the Zoom shows, do so people get to know you more.
I loved it. I was on last Wednesday, and it was great.
Yeah, and Jeremy, who was leading us, is amazing. So any of you guys that want to come on Wednesday night, I do list that on my website. So we hope you can join us on the Zoom Connection Tribe Gathering on Wednesday night. So thanks again, Linda, for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me, Jill. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
I'm so looking forward to us working further together. It's just been amazing so far.
I know there'll be an opportunity. So everyone have a wonderful day, and thanks for joining the Connection Show. Bye now. Thanks for joining us on the Connection Show. Let's connect now. We can dream together to renew, restore, and reconnect with wellness in our life and community. To enhance connection, join us in the Zoom Connection Gathering Tribe on Wednesday evenings. The Zoom Connection Gathering Tribe is an easy and practical way for everyone to meet up, gather, and feel welcomed and accepted. To join us, go to braveheartworkshops.com. Then click on the podcast tab and the Zoom Connection Tribe tab. On that page, go to the Facebook page called the Connection Show Gathering Tribe and register to join our Facebook group. We post secure passwords each week in the group so you can log in safely. We meet on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Mountain, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for 1.5 hours with great topics, laughter, and connection. See you on Wednesday evenings. Thanks for joining us, and have a great day.